All right, so welcome to Essential Tech Center workshop. Today, we're going to speak about everything you always wanted to know about humanitarian action and innovation, but were afraid to ask. So my name is Greg Castella, and I would like to warmly welcome to today's session. So I'd like first to present myself, and before starting the session. So I'm heading the humanitarian division at the Essential Tech Center here at EPFL. I will speak about what we're doing at the center in a minute. About myself, so I'm a biologist by training. I did a PhD in life science, not at EPFL, but just next door at the University of Lausanne. And then I worked in the humanitarian sector for quite a while, mainly with the ICRC, different location in the field. And then maybe a bit less than 10 years ago, I started to get interested in humanitarian innovation. And I worked with several organizations in this field. For instance, with Doctors Without Borders, where I led their innovation initiatives for a couple of years. And now I'm, since more or less half a year, here at the EPFL, leading the humanitarian division. Also like to say that I'm the proud dad of a little daughter. So that's it about myself. I have today the chance to co-host this session with my colleague Marina. Marina, I'll let you the floor in order to speak a little bit about yourself and about the agenda.
Hello, everybody. Also warm welcome from my side. So my name is Marina. And just a few words about me. So I am Spanish. I'm a physicist by training. I also have a PhD in material science from EPFL. And I have been since a few time now working in the management of innovation projects in general, also related to entrepreneurship in engineering. And recently I joined Greg in the Essential Tech Center to help coordinating him the humanitarian tech division. And also personally, I'm also a mother of 1 year and a half son, and I like biking, being outside. So that's a few words about me. I'm going now to go through the agenda of the session. I see already that you have managed to connect to our mural space. I see people wandering around as it's interactive screen. I will ask you not to touch for the moment any of the images that are there. I will go through it in just a few seconds to explain you everything. But first of all, about the agenda. So today we will start with an introduction. Then we will explain you the definition of what is humanitarian action. We will then go to see the difference between humanitarian action and development aid. This will lead us to speak about humanitarian innovation. And finally, we will talk about the relationship of humanitarian aid and also digitalization. And we will end with a short closing and also a bonus if we have time. So as I see that some of you already went to the mural. This is quite nice. I hope that all of you can see what is in there. And we will use this space afterwards, the space where you see the quiz. You have also there the resources that we have used for the workshop. And we will come back to this space right away. I give the floor now to Greg that will start with the introduction.
Thank you, Marina. So you can see, please don't doubt to click on the link that Marina posted on the chat. You can see the mural. We will come back to it in a minute. So let me go back to my presentation. So here you have the agenda. So the first point is an introduction about us and what we are doing. So we are working for a center at EPFL, which is called Essential Tech. Basically, centers at EPFL are administrative units that link the EPFL ecosystem with the outside world. In our case, basically the aid sector. So what we're trying to do is stated in our mission, which is to harness science and technology to drive sustainable development, to support humanitarian action, and to foster peace. So we're active in development, humanitarian action, and peace promotion. Marina and me are leading the humanitarian part of the center. We have other colleagues working in peace promotion and in development. Concretely, what do we do? So our main activities first is to build innovative solutions around the expertise, the technological expertise of EPFL. So we have partners that identify a need, and we look into the EPFL ecosystem to find solutions to this need. We integrate those different expertise from different labs from EPFL in order to build a sustainable solution. I will give you examples in a minute. What is specific to us also is that we try to build sustainable business models around those solutions in order to make them last. So that's the main part of what we do, but we also deliver scientific expertise to our partners when needed. It can be in energy, it can be in water, in construction, etc., according to the needs of our partners. And then finally, we also build educational programs in order to support the upskilling of the staff of our organizational partners. Let me give you a couple of examples of solutions that we've been building over the last years. The first one is Ebola Smart. It's called Ebola Smart PPE. PPE means personal protective equipment. So it's actually a protective equipment for health workers that work in Ebola settings. In the past, they were using equipment that is only single use, that is not comfortable, very warm, and that is like several different pieces. So together with our partner, Médecins Sans Frontières, we design and develop protective equipment that is ventilated, so people can stay longer in the Ebola treatment center. That is reusable, so you can disinfect, and that is only a few single pieces. So here the idea is to help MSF deliver better quality of care to Ebola patients. Another example is an application that we are at the moment developing with Terre des Hommes and with the CHUV. It's called BMAI. The idea is to use artificial intelligence in order to analyze pictures of children that are potentially malnourished, in order to evaluate their height and weight, in order to measure their body mass index. So this is to help Terre des Hommes deal with malnourished children. Another one is Agilis. It's a project we developed with the ICRC, with the International Committee of the Red Cross. And this one is an innovative prosthesis that actually the ICRC in the past was using processes that were rather easy to produce and cheap, but in terms of the dynamic properties of the prosthesis was not that good for the patient. And in Switzerland or in Europe, we have those very high-tech prostheses that are very good in terms of quality, but that are very expensive. So we try to find a balance between those two extremes, and we came up with this prosthesis, which now is being industrialized by the ICRC, who patented the innovation. So this is about us, about Essential Tech Center. Please don't doubt to have a look at our website. If you put Essential Tech Center EPFL on Google, you will find us. You will find also all the other interesting projects we are working on. So now let's go to the next point. So in order to start this session, we'd like to speak about humanitarian action as such. In this session, we'll answer questions like, when did it started, who receives the support, who delivers it, and who pays for it. To start this session, we will go to a little quiz. So please go on the mural where you will be asked to answer a question. I will leave the floor to Marina.
Yes, so as you see, there is a part on the mural called quiz. So I will now start a voting session for each of the 3 questions, and I will let you know when you have to click on one of the different post-its or squares that you can see there for the answers. So we'll start now a voting session for the first question. Let me just start it right now. So the question is, according to you, how many people needed humanitarian assistance in 2020? So you have 5 options. So it's 540 millions, 235 millions, 105 millions, 53 millions, and 8 millions. So you can choose one of these 5 options and just click. You have receive a screen where it shows you how to vote and how to unvote. I see that already 11 people are voting. Some of them remove the vote.
Excuse me, I for some reason I cannot click on it. I have some instruction here, voting session running.
Yeah.
And I cannot.
You cannot select the square?
No, it says begin voting, and then I can't see anything.
Okay.
Let me restart the system.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Maybe try to re-enter the mural.
Okay, now I can. Thank you.
Perfect.
I had to refresh the system. Sorry about that.
No problem. This is quite challenging on a tech side, so I understand. I'm okay. So now 5 people. Sorry, I just see 22 participants on the Zoom, and I see 16 online users of the mural. Somebody else has had problems accessing it, because now I just see. Okay. Okay.
I'm also super confused. How do I know if I even voted or I didn't vote? I mean,
if you clicked on a square, you should see
like a pink thing.
Yes.
But it only appears on question 1. On question 2 and 3, if I click, nothing
Yes,
happens.
because this is not yet open for question 2 and 3. So
okay.
we just opened question 1. So once you finished, I see that now 15 people already voted. I still have to vote myself, so I will do it. I will try not to select the correct one because I know it would be nice. So I think we are done. So I will close the voting session, and we will. Okay. So we are done with question 1. So now I will open the poll for question 2. Okay. So I'm starting now. Question 2. So you will see a screen appearing. And now you can select on question 2, what is the main reason for people to need humanitarian assistance? Is it conflict, natural disaster, epidemics, or other? So I see a question here. For the second question, does it refer to 2020 as well? So this is in general. So 2020 as well, of course. Okay, so let me check. Okay, almost everybody's done. Perfect. So I will vote myself. And now I will close, if everybody's done, I will close the voting session. And I will go now to open the voting session for question 3. So again, you will see a screen appearing, a window appearing. I'm opening it now. So question 3, so according to you, who delivers most of humanitarian aid? Is it the United Nations, the Red Cross, international NGOs, local NGOs, the private sector, or none of them? This one is maybe a bit more tricky. Okay, still 3 people. Okay, perfect. So everybody voted. I will close the voting session right now, and we have all the results. But we will come back to this. We will come back to talk about the results a bit later. I will now give the floor to Greg, who is going to tell you a bit more about the origin of humanitarian action.
Yes, thank you very much, Marina. So we will come back in a minute to the quiz, and I will show you the real figures, and we will discuss it a little bit. But before this, I would like to share with you a couple of elements in terms of the origin of humanitarian action. So while altruism and cooperation are an important component of all human societies, the modern concept of humanitarian aid has its roots in wars of the 19th century. So this concept was really developed at that time, basically by a brave nurse and a kind of a sensitive businessman. So this nurse was Florence Nightingale. You can see the painting here is a representation of her taking care of somebody during the Crimea War. So she was a nurse, and she's the one who seeing the disaster of the health services delivered to soldiers during this war, organized those health services and started to deliver, to help delivering better care to people sick and wounded during a conflict. There's another historical character that is related to humanitarian aid. I guess most of you heard about him. It's Henri Dunant. So Henri Dunant was a businessman from Geneva, and he was visiting, he was on a business trip in Solferino, south of the Alps, and there was a battle there. I think it was a Napoleon battle, and he saw in the battlefield how the wounded and the sick were treated, and he organized the local community in order to create a little hospital and to take care of the people. So those two persons are really, and Henri Dunant, maybe to say also, he's the person that is at the origin of the International Committee of the Red Cross. So those two persons are where we can trace back the origin of modern humanitarian aid. Then another important turning point is the Second World War. So the Second World War marked a change in terms of the impact of war on civilian populations. Before, people affected by wars were actually mostly soldiers in the battlefield. During the Second World War, this changed, and it actually led humanitarian organizations to increase their support to civilians. So that's an important change. It also led to the Fourth Geneva Convention, which specific focus is to protect civilian populations. And then a last milestone is the Biafra War in Nigeria. So that was in the 70s. And during this war, it was kind of a civilian conflict. The ICRC was already existing by that time. It was operating there, but not sharing publicly what was happening. And there was really horrible things happening, in particular to civilian populations. And there's a group of doctors, French doctors, that were working for the ICRC, but were shocked by the fact that they could not share what was happening. And they decided to leave the ICRC and to create their own organization, Médecins Sans Frontières. And it's actually the beginning of a new type of humanitarian action, which is more like militant, a militant way to do humanitarian action. Also, like this willingness to testify about what is happening during conflict. So those are the three milestones I wanted to share with you about the origin of humanitarian action. Now, during those years, the objective and the goal of humanitarian action remained constant, which is first to save lives, second to alleviate sufferings, and also finally to maintain and or restore human dignity. So that's it about the history of modern humanitarian action. Now let's go to some figures in terms of humanitarian needs. So those figures are based on a report from OCHA, so the organization, the agency in charge of coordination of humanitarian assistance. You can see the Global Humanitarian Overview 2020. You will find the link in the resources on the mural if you're interested to have more information. So the real figure is actually 235 million people needed humanitarian assistance in 2020. So let's have a look at what you answered. So you can see here, if you see on my screen, so there is 7% that said 500, more than 500 million, 5, 235, 100, a little bit more, 150, and 8 million. So, well, kind of congratulations to the audience. 500 is more than the reality, but it shows something that it's good that people are aware that there is a lot of people that need humanitarian assistance. Those 235 million people that need assistance, it's a figure that has never been reached since World War II. Just to tell you, it's really, it's at the moment, I mean, there is an increasing rate, the increasing number of people needing humanitarian aid. And let's go to the second question, which was, what is the main reason for people to need humanitarian assistance? And actually, the majority is right, it's conflict. Most of the people, specifically displaced people, it's related with conflicts. Then it's not to say that natural disaster, as we will see, and epidemics do not have a heavy toll in terms of a humanitarian crisis. But yeah, congrats to the audience. It's the correct answer. So I'll go back to my presentation, and then we'll go to the last question.
Sorry, Greg, just to one comment. There is a question here of Thibault, who would like to know if we have an idea of how this number is estimated.
So yeah, so maybe if you want to have more details about those figures, I would recommend you to have a look at the OCHA report. Here you will find all the details on how those figures were estimated. Anyway, it's an estimation for sure, so it's not a precise number, but I think their methodology is rather solid. But thanks, Thibault, for the question. So as I was saying, so 235 million, and a number never reached since World War II, and more than 70 million people displaced. So in terms of people displaced, you have kind of two broad categories: internally displaced persons, IDPs, which are people that are displaced but remain within the same country, and refugees, people that are displaced and cross a border. So there is 51 million internally displaced persons and 20 million refugees they were in 2020. Now, in terms of the challenges affecting and the reasons why those people need humanitarian assistance, the first one is related to conflict, but climate change and natural disasters are also on the rise. So this actually increase the vulnerability of people already needing assistance. And then obviously also the COVID crisis pushed back a very high number of people into poverty and making them more vulnerable to crisis. So yeah, as a conclusion, the situation doesn't look very good at the moment worldwide in terms of humanitarian assistance, and it's a challenge also because in terms of funding, it's also there's also the rate of increase of funding doesn't follow the rate of increase of needs. So now we'll speak about the humanitarian ecosystem. Let's go to your question, to your answer to the question, which was, according to you, who delivers most of humanitarian aid? So let's have a look. So we have 6, the majority thinks it's the United Nations. Then we have in second, international NGOs. Third, the Red Cross. And then finally, local NGOs. And somebody answered none of them. Actually, the answer is correct in the sense that the first 3, United Nations, international NGOs, and Red Cross, are the 3 main movements that deliver aid. I will share with you some more precise information about this. So let me go to this slide. So there's a very interesting report from ALNAP. ALNAP is a think tank on humanitarian action. So the state of the humanitarian ecosystem 2018. That's the report on which all those figures are based. You will find the link also in the resources on Mural, and they really describe the whole ecosystem and give some very interesting figures on this topic. Here, the first figure I'm showing you is a bit the ecosystem as such. It's quite a quite broad ecosystem, many different actors. As you said, there is the UN humanitarian agencies like UNHCR, UNICEF, World Food Programme, IOM, etc. You have international NGOs like MSF. The MSF movement is the biggest one, but many also smaller NGOs. More and more national and local NGOs as well. There is a trend in terms of delivering aid, which is called localization. I will not go into details, but just to let you know that really the priority is to be able to deliver aid as much as possible through local organizations which have a better understanding of the local contexts. Then you have the international Red Cross and Red Crescent movement, important actor as well. And then also not to forget governments, because governments, it's also when people are affected by disaster, it's also the responsibility of the government to cope with the consequences of this disaster. Now let's go into more figures. So here a table also from this report from ALNAP gives you an idea in terms first of staff of UN agencies, NGOs, and Red Cross and Red Crescent movement. So it's really NGOs have more than 300,000 staff. The Red Crescent movement around 160,000, and UN agency less, about 80,000. In terms of expenditure, it's kind of one third. So around 16 billion US dollars for UN agencies, 16 billion for NGOs, and a bit less than 16 million for the Red Cross and Red Crescent movement. Here to say those figures are not cumulative because the 16 million of expenditure from UN agencies, some of it, an important part of it actually, is going to NGOs that are their implementing partners. So if you try to sum up, you'll see that it doesn't fit my next figure, but it's normal. And now, where does this money come from? So here on this graph, you have on the left-hand side the origin of the funding, and on the right-hand side the organization that received the funding to deliver aid. So as you can see, most of the aid is coming from governments. It's about 20 billion, coming from governments, and then only around 6 billion is coming from private people. Private people can be you and me giving to La Chaîne du Bonheur or to MSF, or it can be also philanthropic organizations. But it's less than governments. And where is this money going? So multilateral organizations, mainly UN, receive most of their money from governments. Then NGOs, it's kind of half-half. They receive more from private sector, but an important bulk of the money also from government. And then you have the Red Cross, which receive money mainly from government, and finally public sector and others. So I think that's it for this part on the origin of the humanitarian action and what is humanitarian action. Now the next question we would like to answer is humanitarian action putting bandages where it should actually work on the roots of the problems? So that's an interesting question. It's true. Me, for instance, working in humanitarian action for a while, it's true that sometimes you have the feeling you're just dealing with the consequences, and that without changing the roots of the problems, you're gonna keep on dealing with those consequences. And this leads us to an important question, which is the differences and the convergences between humanitarian aid and development. And it's really related to this. Humanitarian aid dealing with consequences, development trying to build more like a resilient and sustainable prosperity. So let's go to the next slide. So we'd like to interact with the audience to start this session. So we'd like you to answer the question: what are, according to you, the differences between humanitarian action and development aid? So you have two options to answer this question. Either you type your answer in the chat, or if you would like to speak, you can also type your name and we will give you the floor. If we have, we'll try to give the floor to a couple of people according to the time we have. So please, you can start answering.
Okay, so we have a first person who wants to speak, which is Thibault Toussaint. So please, the floor is yours.
Hello, thank you. Yeah, very interesting question, and I think a nice way to sum it up a bit is actually the question you put as the opening of this. That we can see it as humanitarian action, more the bandage type of action, and development aid more dealing with the root problems. And it's a personal belief, but we need both. Like when you hurt yourself, you need a bandage and you need to understand the root of the problem. So for me, maybe this duality, it's very simplified, but I think it grabs the idea of the difference.
All right, thanks a lot, Thibault. Somebody else would like to give an answer, or to type an answer?
Linda Yo typed the question. Is it human-centered? I don't. So you are asking if our question. So if the solution is okay.
Okay, yeah. So that's also part of the answer. So I see that the time is passing faster than expected. So I think we should move on to the next. Thanks a lot, Thibault and Linda, for your answers. And now I will try to give you a couple of elements. So humanitarian relief, that's something that Thibault expressed already. Humanitarian relief is traditionally conceived as an exceptional and temporary emergency measure to save lives and alleviate suffering. On the other hand, development is traditionally conceived as a strategically planned activity driven by governments in order to increase prosperity, reduce poverty, increase social cohesion. So as you can see from those definitions, there is differences related with three different things: time frame, purpose, and mode of action. So in terms of time frame, humanitarian action rather short term, development rather long term. In terms of purpose, so humanitarian action deal with the consequences of a crisis. Development rather build together with governments mechanisms in order to increase prosperity and well-being of the people. And then mode of action, it's related with the second one. Humanitarian organizations have a tendency to deliver support by themselves. and development organizations to build partnerships with governments. There is an additional consideration related to those differences that is very important in this discussion, which is principled humanitarian action. So humanitarian organizations, in order to be able to access the places where people need support, adopted a series of principles. I will describe the main three here: neutrality, impartiality, and independence. So neutrality means the organizations, they don't take side. They don't, in a conflict, they don't say which one is right or wrong, etc. They remain neutral, and they're here just to help the people. Impartiality means the assistance will follow only the needs and no consideration in terms of religion, of nationality, of color, of gender, etc. So this is impartiality. Needs, the assistance is really needs driven. And independence, a very important one as well, means there is no government or donor agency that tells the organization to do what they have to do. It's the organization, according to their assessment of the needs of the people, that decide of where they do operate, and not also not the receiving government. This is when those three principles are met. This is what you can call a principled humanitarian action. And we will see that in the actual situation where the difference between humanitarian action and development is sometimes blurred. This is quite important. So nowadays there is situations that have been increasing over the past decades. I would say is protracted conflicts. So protracted conflicts are like low intensity conflict or situation of violence that actually last long and that do not do not have a perspective of solving themselves on the short term. That means that humanitarian organizations usually stay much longer in the countries where they operate than in the past. For instance, the ICRC, the 10 largest operation of the ICRC, the average time ICRC stayed in those operations is 36 years. So imagine, it's the average between the 10 largest operations, 36 years. So it's in this situation, it's difficult to say that humanitarian action is an emergency and temporary measure. It's, you know, it's 36 years is a very long time. And this has the consequence of the resources of humanitarian organizations to have a tendency to be overstretched, in the sense that if the ICRC or another organization is staying that long in context, then it's difficult to have the adequate resources to deal with other emergencies. There's another consequences on the side of development agencies, which is it's sometimes difficult for development agencies to operate in those contexts, because it's contexts where the security is often a bit difficult, and development organizations that don't have the expertise of managing those situations in terms of the security of their staff, in the relation with the potential weapon bearers, etc. So it means those contexts really, you know, lead to situations where neither humanitarian organization and development agencies feel completely at ease. And so this is in the current debate, it's called the nexus. So it's the nexus between humanitarian action and development aid. You can see on the picture here, it's the Zaatari camp in Jordan. It's a camp of Syrian refugees. And you can see it's really a little city. At the highest of the crisis, in 2015, there was 400,000 people living in this camp. It was the third city of Jordan. So and there is now the people. There is a reduction of the number of people living there, but it's still, I think, 80,000 people. So, and this is not going to change anytime soon. So here it really exemplifies this challenge of the nexus. Now, recently, there's a third factor that came into the equation, which is peace promotion. and that led to what is called the triple nexus between humanitarian action, development, and peace. And peace comes with its own challenges. I will not develop much on this because the time is running. But again, you will find a very interesting resource in the mural, a blog post from ICRC on the triple nexus, and really that helps structure the debate. Just to say also that we at Essential Tech Center, that's exactly where we work, at the intersection between development, humanitarian action, and peace promotion. Now, I'd like to say a few words about the challenges related to the nexus, because it's true it raised some criticism, especially in the side of humanitarian actors, in terms of how you can remain a principled organization while interacting in the development sector. So there are three challenges. The first one is related with protection. It's actually kind of related with the impartiality principle. If you work with only with the government in a conflict, let's say, there is a risk that you will not be able to deliver aid in those zones that are not controlled by the government. Let's say in a zone that is controlled by rebel groups, if you work only in partnership with the government, it will be very difficult for you to deliver aid in this setting. So that's a problem. The problem of having a kind of a blind spot. So this is the protection gap. Then there is the emergency gap. It means that if you prioritize your resources only for long-term development outcome, you might be short of resources in terms of delivering aid to people that need support right now. So that's what is called the emergency gap. And finally, the perception gap is related with the principle of neutrality and independence. If you're in a humanitarian organization and you work only with government, then you will not be perceived as neutral and independent anymore, and it might put at risk your capacity to deliver aid in zones where let's say rebel groups, for instance, or other armed groups are in control. So that's and it might also put at risk the security of your staff. So that's also another serious challenge. So this is not to say that the nexus is not possible to implement. What is needed is actually a pragmatic approach. So combining principled action when needed and nexus programming where you have humanitarian development and peace promotion actors working together according to the needs and the context. So that's it for this part of the presentation. Let me check. So we have 15 minutes left. So we are late. So I will try to go a little bit faster. Sorry about this. So now we are going to go into what will most probably interest most our audience, our engineer audience, which is what is humanitarian innovation and what is all the fuzz about it. So I'd like to say a few words about why it's important for humanitarian organizations to innovate. The first one is related with the growing gap between humanitarian needs and resources. So as I explained before in previous slides, there is growing needs, shrinking resources. So innovation is an opportunity for organizations to become more effective and deliver more aid with the same amount of resources. Another one is related with Linda's comment earlier on. Innovation being user or human-centered is key in order to succeed. So it's an opportunity. Doing innovation is an opportunity for a humanitarian organization to deliver a more inclusive and adapted response, to really listen to the needs of people and build solutions around those needs. And finally, and this is more about technology innovation, I will speak about it in a minute. Technology plays an ever-increasing role in our societies. The needs of people are changing, and humanitarian organizations have kind of a duty to take advantage of this trend to be able to deliver better aid and to adapt to new needs. So in the end, what is humanitarian innovation? So it's quite diverse. So it's a kind of a diversity of complementary approaches. We at Essential Tech, we're working mostly in terms of technology innovation. But you have also bottom-up innovation labs in refugee camps. You have, for instance, Terre des Hommes that has fab labs in Gaza and in Kenya. You have the Response Innovation Lab, which has different makerspace close to a humanitarian crisis. You have also new organizational models. When I was working with MSF, it was also including innovation, reflecting on how we are organized and how we can be more efficient. There's also the side of biomedical research. So the bottom line is innovation should lead to the capacity to deliver better humanitarian services and or to become more efficient for the organizations. Now we have another question for the audience. So according to you, what are the main challenges when developing and scaling an innovation in humanitarian settings? So what comes to mind in terms of what are the challenges? So you can either write your answer in the chat or you can raise your hand and we will give you the floor. Any contribution? Thibaut, yeah?
Yeah,
Yes.
maybe one thing that I can think of is you mentioned the different partners which may have divergent objectives. So maybe when you try to implement something new, some people would say, oh, you're doing that because you want to, I don't know, help more the government than me, or something. Maybe like if you have to cope with different partners to explain to everybody that you're not trying to choose a camp, but you're trying just to help people. Maybe that's a big challenge. I don't know if the biggest.
Yeah, you're right. In terms of perception as well. Yeah, we'll come back to this at a later stage. Any other contribution?
So maybe online with what Thibaut said, is about trusting you that you want to help them selflessly.
Yeah, that's also right. This is, I would say, it's a challenge not only of humanitarian innovation, but of humanitarian action also, in terms of really making sure that the people perceive you as being really truly impartial.
And also maybe testing the development before scaling it up. The testing part, when you develop something, you need to test it. You need to put it into some strains. So taking it there and testing it, and people might use it, might not work, and then they will lose faith in it. So maybe the testing part is a challenge as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms, especially of scaling the innovation. Yeah, that's something that we are reflecting on as well. So I think I'll move forward. Thanks a lot, Fadi and Thibaut, for your answers. So I will share with you. Yes, Marina?
Yes, just to maybe read the very fast some answers from other persons. So Cesar said the trade-off between local specific needs versus global tools that many people at the same time. So this for sure. Then also Renata, financial challenges, local and research partners working together, challenge as well. Do not judge based on something versus perception gap. And finally, Reda said innovation under numerous constraints, access to energy, access to networks, adverse conditions. So yeah,
All right,
many challenges.
Yeah, thanks a lot, for all those contributions. As you can see, there is a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that there's a diversity of answers, because it really reflects the diversity of challenges facing while doing humanitarian innovation. Now, I will share with you my perception of the four most important ones. The first one is related with engaging with people. You know, when after a crisis, it's not easy. If you want to do really like human-centered design, you know, people, populations for which you want to develop something, they're under stress, they're in a difficult situation. So this part of really engaging with communities is quite of a challenge, and also because it's in settings that sometimes the security is complicated. So yeah, so that's for me the first challenge, because it's so important to be human-centered. Then what I call the saving lives syndrome. It's more related to the organization. Me, when I was working with MSF, I was like coming with an idea to operations, say, oh, we could do this and this and this, and they were telling me, well, you're very cute with your little gadget, but you know, we're saving lives here, so we don't have time, you know. So it's a bit this in humanitarian organizations, it's not so easy to create this space where you can experiment to do innovation when the organization is always answering to emergencies. So for me, that's the second most important challenge. The third one is related to the user-buyer disconnect. It means that often the product or service that you develop is meant to be used by people affected by a catastrophe, but at the same time, they're not those ones paying for it. It's the organization that pays for it. And in terms of we spoke about scaling just a minute ago, it's quite of a challenge because there might be different considerations in terms of the people that are using what you're developing and the people that are buying it. So it's especially in terms of scaling innovation, it's quite of a challenge. And the last one, I can't remember, but somebody, Reda, spoke about it. It's about connectivity and infrastructure. I mean, especially in terms of technology innovation, it's quite of a challenge to work in settings where there's very little infrastructure or it's been destroyed, low connectivity, sometimes also related with the skills of people. So that's also a challenge to take into consideration. So that's it for this part on humanitarian innovation. Now we'd like to keep on speaking about innovation, but more particularly about technology innovation and digital transformation. So now we have a last question. I think let's try to do it quickly. According to you, what are the most important needs of people affected by a humanitarian crisis? So what comes to mind in terms of the need of people affected by a crisis? Please write down in the chat what comes to mind.
So we have peace, connect with friends and relatives, security.
Absolutely.
Safety.
Mm-hmm.
Everything related to essential needs, of course.
Yes, thank you, Renata.
Family together, comfort, access to water and first aid.
Yes, exactly. So thanks, Jonathan. It's true that for instance, access to water, you know, the normal like needs that that a humanitarian organization meet in the field, it's stuff related with access to water, food, shelter, security, now more and more access to energy. But my point here is that those needs, they've been evolving. Those basic needs, also restoring the family links, etc., they still exist and they will remain. But however, since technology is playing an ever-increasing role in our society, the needs of the people evolved according to this. They need electricity, they need Wi-Fi to connect with their family, etc. So the point we wanted to make here is related to the fact that the needs are evolving and organizations have to adapt to those new needs. Just a very short word about the role of technology, the role that technology is playing in our global society nowadays. I will not develop, but you know that we live in a society of information. Information is more and more information is available on the internet. Mobile connectivity allows to bring this information in the palm of the hand of the people, also in the global south and in humanitarian settings. And you have a whole range of new technologies being developed, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, drones, etc., that have the potential to actually increase the quality of life of people. This, what some people call the fourth industrial revolution, also sometimes leave some people behind. There's what some people call the digital divide, and that's something that you know, humanitarian organizations also have to be aware of, and in certain measure to be able to take care of. So digital. So all this is about digital transformation. It's a strong trend that is also quite strong in the humanitarian sector. The humanitarian sector, there's like three main stakes in terms of digital transformation. First, digitization of operations, using digital tools to become more efficient. Second, the capacity, I just spoke about it, the capacity to deliver new services to affected population, adapt to new needs of people, for instance, in terms of connectivity, but also the capacity to adapt to new risks and challenges. For instance, data protection. Nowadays, it should be consideration for everybody, but especially in humanitarian settings where you have vulnerable people, data protection is even more important. And when you propose digital services, that's something you have to take into account. In order to exemplify this trend of digital transformation, I'd like to say just a few words about a great partnership we have together with the ICRC and ETH Zurich. The ICRC has quite an ambitious agenda in terms of digital transformation. So they created a digital transformation directorate, and they really want to move forward with digital transformation. And EPFL and ETH propose to support this effort at ICRC by creating this engineering humanitarian action partnership. So it's a partnership that started last year. The objective is to develop new solutions and approaches for humanitarian action, and also to lead the way for the development of a Swiss Pole of Excellence in humanitarian innovation. There is one, so the main component of this partnership is a call for research proposal. We did one last year. We have one open at the moment. So it's basically labs from EPFL and ETH that propose a research project that helps ICRC to solve one of its challenges. Not all are digital, but several of them, let's say a majority of them, are related to digital. Just to give you an idea of the type of projects that are supported in the frame of this partnership, there is a very interesting project by Professor Carmela Troncoso from Spring Lab at EPFL, which is about private biometrics for aid distribution. I see that the time is we're almost finished, so I will not have time to give you details, but really the idea is to build a protocol in order to allow organizations to use biometrics in humanitarian settings while not putting at risk the privacy of the people of the affected populations. Again, on our website, you will find a link to this project if you want to know more about it. So that's it on our side. So we would like to thank you very much for attending this session. We hope that you learned something during this hour. And again, you have our contact. And let me share my screen just 1 second. If you want to get in touch, please don't doubt. You have our contacts just here. So Grégoire.castella@epfl.ch or Marina.Gonzalez Lazo @epfl.ch. So if you want more information, please drop us a line. Please also have a look at the resources on our mural if you are interested to dive deeper in one of those topics. So thanks a lot for your assistance, and wishing you a very nice end of the day.